Like that.
And
Yeah, actually, I think a little over 2 months, actually.
probably right. And so much stuff has happened since then.
It has. We've been busy.
Real busy. And I guess that most of you people haven't seen that. So just to say, I'm really impressed with everything that he's doing. Craig is doing most of the stuff naturally because he's the CEO and most important guy in the Superphoenix DAO currently. And we got some really cool stuff coming up. So I'm excited for it, and I'm excited for you guys to hear about it as well. That being said, I do think that we are ready to just have at it. We should have Star Atlas TV recording. Do we get a thumbs up from Star Atlas TV? I'm gonna check if he's listening because usually he just press record and then it goes to sleep, and then hopefully press it off in at the end.
All right, so we think we're good, ready to dive in.
I think we're ready to dive in.
Okay, good
Right.
stuff. Okay,
So,
well, I think we're. Oh, go ahead.
What's the first thing on the agenda, sir?
Well, I was going to kind of do the just the overall quick, and then we can pretty much dive into it. So, I think we're going to touch a little bit on some of the airdrop info. I think right out of the gate, obviously, a lot of people are curious about that and some of the updates. Then, obviously, kind of a recap on Breakpoint, some of the cool stuff that happened there, folks we met, things that are sort of brewing and in the works. And then I want to make sure I kind of touch on, the DAO token and sort of the plans for kind of the upcoming launch and that sort of thing. That's kind of the next big target or push, I guess, on the roadmap. So
that sounds like a lot. Sounds like a lot.
All right, I'll try to keep it. Yeah, I'll try to keep it tight. So I've been told that I can go on for a little while there, but so anyway, I guess we'll dive in as far as some of the airdrop stuff goes. I know originally before Breakpoint we were talking quite a bit around so the whole idea of the badges and the badges being specifically related to the merge and the snapshot. And kind of, what everyone's going to get as part of that piece of it. And so I'm happy to announce that that is ready to go, which is awesome. The dev team did a phenomenal job once again. As everyone knows, the snapshot was taken August 23rd. So after we got through kind of that merge process, so everyone was able to merge up to their kind of highest level cubes that they were comfortable with. And that'll be the snapshot we kind of use for all of these airdrops going forward. But essentially how this is going to work is the badges that you're entitled to are effectively going to be linked to the different tiers or levels of cubes that you held in the wallet at the time of the snapshot. Now, rather than just doing it kind of one-to-one, because we didn't want kind of this huge proliferation of maybe lower level badges, because the idea were that these were going to be much more collectible and sort of folks really want to hang on to probably the one that represents sort of the top tier that they were able to merge up to. So the way it kind of works is based on that snapshot. Let's say you had, basically you get one badge for every level or tier of cube you have represented in your wallet, regardless of how many that is. So if you had one red cube, one blue cube, and then 10 white cubes, you're going to get effectively one badge for each of those three colors or tiers. So it didn't matter that you had 10, common cubes. You'll still get one badge representing kind of that common tier. So I guess we can kind of dive into that and see, what folks think, because obviously we wanted to get it out there and we wanted to have folks get badges that represented, the cubes that they truly held. But again, having a whole slew of them for maybe some of the lower tiers just didn't make a whole lot of sense for kind of the intention of this initial kind of merge airdrop, kind of signifying this event. So again, we are completely live. We're ready to go. Everything should be claimable right now on superphoenix.com, superphoenixdao.com. We've added another tab. So just kind of like how our mint process went and even the merge itself, there's now a navigation tab on the webpage that says badges. And so the idea now, you can go in there if you like, click on badges, connect your wallet. Now, of course, it has to be the wallet that's recognized by the snapshot to be eligible. And then as soon as you're in, you'll see kind of a new list of available badges and kind of shadows of ones that maybe are not available. So it's a bit of an inventory kind of collection setup that we're creating here. So I don't know, Benny, if you wanted to jump in. I was hoping we could do a little bit of a screen share and kind of do a little walkthrough with one of them so folks get comfortable with it, and then I can kind of get back on track with some of the other topics.
Yeah, I am already sharing my screen just to show
Excellent.
you guys. It's our main page, and then there's a new tab called Badges here. And then you will get this screen up. And as you can see, like you said, there are badges, Lieutenant, Captain, Lieutenant, Commander, that's me, Commander, Vice Admiral, that's also me, and Admiral, that's not me yet. So these represents the cubes. Obviously, this being the purple, gold, red, blue, green, and the white one. So to get these, we click, and we choose, and we claim. And then I should get a pop-up here. And confirm. And then we just need to sit tight for this process is hopefully flawless. Right?
Absolutely. I believe there may be 2 confirmations needed, if I remember correctly. So there may be
2 confirmations. I can just confirm that because it took about those seconds until I confirmed until now. Just now,
Okay.
I got the second one. So and there we go.
Perfect.
There it
Yeah.
is.
So the first one is effectively reaching out to confirm that this is the correct wallet and referencing against the snapshot to confirm that you are truly eligible. And then the second one is effectively minting the badge that you've chosen that you are eligible for. Yep.
Yeah. Just to answer Groza and his question, the priority fee is just when the network is busy. You have the options to put that one high up if you want to speed through the process, but at this time it won't be necessary, so you can just keep it on the default. That should be no problem at all. It's just an option we have. If the network is really busy, we can put up the priority fees so that you're actually able to get them if the network is busy. But right now there's no issue, so just leave it at default and you should be good to go. All right.
Hey,
So, there we go. I have claimed my badge. So you can see my badge shows as claimed here, and then you can see how it looks. It looks fantastic and flawless as usual. And then I do actually have one more. So I'm just going to leave my priority fees on default, and I will claim this one too. And then the first one to confirm, and then the second one to actually get it into your wallet. And it takes about, I don't know, 10 to 20 seconds usually. Relatively quick. And now I confirm the second one. And voila, there we go. Second badge. So even if I had 15 blue cubes, I would still only get one of these badges, which makes them even more scarce and rare, I say, which is the whole meaning of it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great, Benny. This is good. So yeah, worked just like it did in test. Looks excellent. Obviously, if anyone does run into an issue, please let us know. Hit us up in the Discord. We actually have, I think, one or two of the devs are actually lurking and available today while this goes live, just to make sure in case we had any issues. But again, I think it's super smooth. They've done a phenomenal job putting it together. And again, this is just kind of the beginning of this whole process. So, the inventory you see now is really just these, 6 badges that kind of represent the cubes during the merge period. But this particular collection literally will be called merge. The merge is going to be one of the attributes of these specific NFTs. So I'll make sure to get these up on Magic Eden as well, or have them tradable on Magic Eden probably next week. We just want to allow for a few more people to claim them, so we can get some of the different contracts through in the numbers accordingly. But we'll make sure that these also go out and become tradable on the secondary market if anybody chooses to do so. But again, they will likely be some of the more, if not most, rare badges we end up doing throughout this whole process. So, but to give you an idea, this is kind of where we're envisioning the inventory system to go. I think we'll eventually begin to break it out into the larger system, which is full kind of badge rank and player progression, which I've already got a really good outline for. And the majority of the badges that are going to pertain to rank and progression, they're going to have a similar theme, obviously, but the coloring is going to be different, and the shield and the emblem and that sort of things will be a bit different to coincide more with the different abilities and attributes that the actual crew have in Star Atlas, right? So the idea is, if you have someone who's a medic or a pilot or a commander, we're going to kind of mimic a badge rank progression system for each one of those specialties that will be able to match characters and positions in the future on the ship. So I'm excited about it. I think it's a cool process, and this airdrop was just a way to kind of kick that off and get the theme of it going and get the idea behind it going, while also creating kind of an exclusive collection for folks who were on board with us from day one, which is great. And on top of it, some of the tooling and things that the devs have built to kind of even create this process is going to help us in the future do some of the additional claims and drops and things that we want to do. We'll be able to use a lot of this tooling and just kind of flip it over to some of the other pieces, which is very cool. So with that, I think I can kind of go to the next piece here, which, again, if we're talking about airdrops, we're talking about this stuff. Folks are still very curious about the remainder we have on the docket, which are obviously the ships, the crew, even the posters. I know we haven't talked a lot about those yet, and things have changed slightly on the timeline, but overall we're still on track, which is great. Ship claims have always been intended here to get through before the end of the year, and that's still the plan. I don't have a final exact date. I know that's what people are kind of hoping for. But I was, again, in contact with Michael and some of the folks on the team, both at Breakpoint, and then again, most recently here just in the last week. So we have plans for all of that to how we're going to roll it out. And obviously we're sticking with that whole Agrica ship line and the airdrops as intended. But again, in part, some of these things are dependent on the resources and tooling we need to provide to the devs for rolling out the token launch, as well as, we're currently in talks with additional investors for the project too. And some of this, this all kind of goes together so we can finalize, closing out the agreement with Star Atlas, getting our hands on the actual ships, finalizing, the collection of the Titan, as well as making sure we have the runway we need to build out the DAO, the token launch, and eventually the actual governance mechanisms. So all those things are in the works, and we're discussing. But nothing to be concerned about. Obviously, we still have the same agreement with Star Atlas team, which is amazing. All the crew, all the components, all of that will go with the ship airdrop as we promised, or everyone's entitled to those as they were. And the snapshot doesn't change. All of that's going to be applicable to all the folks who closed everything down, or merged up, I should say, during the merge, and then we had the snapshot on August 23rd. I guess in that same regard, I realized that folks were hoping we had a day ready to go, or that the ship drops were ready today. Unfortunately, it's not the case. We've got a little bit further to go on that. But like I said, we're making progress and we're still moving forward on it 100%. So in the meantime, what I was able to negotiate and I felt was a good intermediate way to provide some value back to folks who obviously have been waiting patiently and have been phenomenal in supporting us. I was able to go ahead and secure all of the crew packs that everyone is entitled to with their ships that correlated to their cubes. And unlike the badges, of course, this is for every cube, you're entitled to a ship. And for every ship, there is a specific number of crew at certain levels that are, that are promised, just the same as Star Atlas did with the original crew airdrops. So, your white and green cubes are getting silver crew, and then all the way up through, the top end where, gold and purple cubes and such are getting platinum crew. So the great part about that, I'm happy to announce that the crew, all crew that you're entitled to, have now been airdropped as of today. So I don't know if there were anybody who was out there kind of looking or poking around and maybe had saw those or noticed those. But just a couple hours before we hopped on here to talk today, I made sure that the dev team had everything they need. And using the snapshot, we're able to just go ahead and push all of the unopened crew packs that you're entitled to for all the cubes that you held on the snapshot. So everyone's got those, which is great. You can dive in as you speak, jump back into Star Atlas with that wallet, and you're able to open them up and go through that normal process. Whether you put them in Sage or whether you keep them in your inventory is completely up to you. But hopefully that kind of helps bridge the gap here a little bit while we're still moving forward with the roadmap. And like I said, was a good way for us to give some of that utility out to folks as soon as we possibly could. So hopefully that goes well. It was well appreciated. Good luck to everyone who's going to be tearing through some more crew packs. Obviously, we'd love to see it on Twitter. So feel free to please share what you got dropped. Because again, I think Star Atlas has done a phenomenal job on kind of the whole crew pack opening experience, kind of the lottery mechanism of it, and just all the amazing attributes, all the differences that they've been able to put in, how wide that collection spans has been very cool.
I honestly thought we were gonna be opening them for everybody so that I could claim that anomaly listing.
That's not the first time I've heard that. Yeah, see if there's some way to have some preference as to which goes where. No. So we kept everything is exactly the same. So these are the true crew packs, as created by the Star Atlas team, automatically, randomly airdropped to everybody's wallets as part of the snapshot. And like I said, you can dive in, pop over to Star Atlas. They should be right there in your inventory, like anything else, and you can hop into their crew tab and start opening them up, see what you get.
Awesome. Share what you guys get. I'm excited to see what you people are getting out there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's obviously, we all know there's some pretty cool potential for some of the crew that have been coming through and some of those attributes and how heavily they've been trading on Tensor, which is awesome. So who knows? I think we've got some, there's some folks with a number of cubes that have some really good potential to obviously pull some cool crew. So, and again, and just like, again, the opening process is the same on Star Atlas site. So choosing which race you want or leaving it random, all of that stuff is totally up to you. So that'd be cool to see what the community starts pulling or what they're getting. So Absolutely. Kind of excited.
Absolutely.
Yep. I guess on that note, I'll kind of wrap up sort of the airdrop piece briefly, just kind of touch on the poster claim thing. I know we had talked about it a bit ago. The designs are basically complete. I've got a few more details to wrap up with the Star Atlas team on actual delivery of the remaining 2 crafting posters. So I need to follow up with them and kind of solidify timelines and quantities. But ultimately, that first set of the collection is basically ready to go. And then I think the kind of claim process is going to be very similar to what we just had here with the badges for the kind of more specialized posters that go along with the individual cubes themselves, which, again, I think these are very cool, kind of unique sort of NFT type art pieces that, again, just represent the project really well. Will turn into these cool collector's items that eventually someday in full UE5, folks will be able to display, in their other ships, in their habs, all this kind of stuff, which I think it'll be, by the time that stuff comes around, these things will have been kind of solidified, at this early point in time. I think they'll be very cool collectibles. That's my hope anyway. But in addition to that, I know people don't just dive into Sage and craft up posters because they like them, right? There's always got to be a little bit of an incentive. So that will be the update that I can kind of provide here is we have a very I have a pretty well laid out rewards system now, including DAO token components. Now they're getting much closer to the DAO token process and how that launch is going to look, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. I now feel confident that I can take a portion of kind of that DAO token, reward mechanism and be able to apply it directly to the craftable poster contribution, right? So being able to tie somewhat of a reward in there, either in the fact it will likely come in the way of just specific DAO token allocation for likely for burning complete collections of those posters, because there are quite a few of them out there. They're relatively simple to craft. So I know some folks will want to just hang on to some of them, and that's great. But again, to kind of, reduce some of that inventory and create an incentive around it, I'm looking at definitely a DAO token like redemption process, and then potentially a multiplier if you're in the NFT cube kind of staking mechanism too, which again will all come out later with the kind of DAO token launch. So more to come on posters. My hope is to dive back into those here real soon. In the interim, as time permits, with the devs and with Star Atlas and what they've got going on. But again, to not only finalize that initial 3 poster set that was always intended to be craftable in Sage, but then truly roll out and kind of define the reward mechanism for it, for folks who want to participate, again, being available when the DAO token comes out, which is much sooner now than it was when we were first discussing, earlier this summer.
Amazing stuff. I'm kind of getting the sense of a second kind of merge event for the post.
It's been discussed, and there's been inquiries into that. I'd say we definitely won't rule it out. At this stage, though, I wouldn't anticipate it in the near future, because as we said, we've got a few other things to tackle here, obviously, with finalizing the rest of our airdrops for the community, getting the DAO token up and running and launched and public, which is going to take us into early, very early next year. So the likelihood is probably after that, right? If we're moving kind of forward in the roadmap, some point after that, we may look at alternative ways to get some more cubes out into, new community members' hands as we kind of grow and push that direction. And so then as part of that, if we do start to increase kind of, how we're able to get cubes out to folks, the likelihood of offering, another limited kind of merge opportunity, I think makes a lot of sense, because, folks definitely, I'm sure there are people who are going to want the opportunity to kind of merge up cubes, even if, in the future now we'll be talking, these airdrops won't be a part of that, but there's still going to be staking benefits, staking multipliers and benefits that way. And then, of course, as we get into the entertainment aspect and the offerings that we want to move forward with the DAO, that's where the different kind of layers and levels of access and VIP status, if you will, kind of come into play with the cubes. And so even though there's always going to be that rarity because of the math required in the burning mechanism, still giving people at least a path to where they can accumulate maybe on the secondary, or they could participate in a redemption event that gives them an opportunity to maybe get a little bit higher tier than they otherwise would have down the road as things progress. I think that makes a lot of sense. So we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it a little bit loose, but again, we've created the tooling, which was great. The merge went really, really well. We had a lot of positive feedback. So it does feel a little, it doesn't feel great to just kind of throw that to the wayside. I think the ability to resurrect it at some point in the future seems real plausible.
Absolutely. So wrapping up all of this airdrop stuff, about a month ago, you were in Singapore representing the DAO.
I was, and it's
How was that?
it was amazing that it was a month ago already. I swear it feels like I just got back a few days ago, but yeah, it's already been a month, which is crazy. It was great. I'll be honest. It was an excellent event. It was an amazing opportunity. For me, this was personally my first breakpoint. So I think that's part of it too, right? I got a real good insider's look, being a sponsor, at the event. And I think it was just great. It was really good to be a part of it. And having the DAO be a sponsor both on the main floor and then being able to participate in what Star Atlas did with the Impact Summit was phenomenal. It was probably one of the best combinations of exposure, connections, networking, that I've had since we've dove into this whole project. It was great. There was a lot of traffic, a lot of people there. Singapore was buzzing that week. Token 2049 had just wrapped up a couple days before, and Formula One racing was right there, right in the city. And just as a side note, I was extremely close to it, closer than maybe I even wanted to be. I didn't realize that the hotel I booked was across the street from the conference hall, so I thought that would be nice and convenient. But it turns out that the Formula One racetrack literally encircled my hotel. So it actually became really difficult to get back and forth from the conference hall every day. It was kind of funny. My poor cabbies couldn't figure out how to get to the hotel because there was this labyrinth of underground parking structures you had to navigate from different places across the street, and it was a whole thing. But about a half a day in, I finally figured it out and was able to get back and forth and traverse the shopping malls and the skyways and all of those things. But no, it was great. The experience was great. I wish I had more time. Obviously, it was a bit of a short trip for me, but it was great getting to meet members of the community. Obviously, a lot of very influential folks in the Solana ecosystem, and then of course Star Atlas themselves had just a massive presence there from the team, which was very cool. So again, getting to meet people, shake people's hands, do the networking, and then obviously talk about the project. Right? I think I spent, every pretty much every waking hour that I was there in the building both days, it was constantly just talking to people about, what Superphoenix DAO is, what we're doing, who we are, what the plan is, and just a lot of really cool feedback. Got to spend time with a lot of key folks, influencers, media, people representing exchanges, financial organizations, investment firms, a lot of other game devs, which was very cool. Made some really good connections with some of the other game studios that were also participating and sponsoring the event, much like ourselves and Star Atlas. Became very close with the Volania team was there, which I know they've got their Heroes event going on today, actually. So it was very cool. Got to chat with those guys a bit. Games like, Nine Heroes were there, Portals were there. Obviously, Star Atlas had a huge presence. There were just a number of different projects. It was great.
Absolutely. I wasn't there myself, as sad as it is, but just trying to communicate with you over there. I saw you were busy, that's for sure.
It was, yeah. I can say I kind of missed you not being there, Benny. I could have used another set of hands for sure, but I will say, actually, he for don't let him kid you, because Viking Benny was instrumental during those couple of days, managing kind of the social media and the Twitter side of everything, and basically keeping me honest and keeping me on track. Via communication that way, making sure I was getting some content, getting some pictures, doing the meet and greets, getting stuff that could be shared, to everybody out on Twitter and here on Discord. So that was a huge help. I really appreciate it. There's no way I would have been able to carve out time for that, just considering how everything went. But again, it was great. The entire first day, I was able to walk around, meet people, promote the DAO, and kind of be in, Solana Breakpoint all in. which was very cool. And then day 2 was the Impact Summit, right? So Star Atlas did a phenomenal job with the Impact Summit. I think by far it was one of the most well received technically side events, if you will, because there's quite a few side events that go on throughout Breakpoint. But the fact that this one was really during the day, kind of same day on the second day of the conference, and just located right downstairs, it was so convenient for folks. The place was hopping. I don't know what else to say. If you guys saw, I'm sure there's a lot of footage and a lot of great things from the Impact Summit that most folks have already seen or checked out. But it was great. It was a busy place. People were in and out all day long. The tournament they had playing Surge was a blast. It was so cool to watch. And then obviously, the DAO, we got to set up a kiosk there and have a presence alongside, some of the other guilds, which was very cool to kind of hang out and chat with all those folks. And then, as being sort of a creator or an offshoot DAO that's participating in, the use of the IP and all those things that Star Atlas has been offering. We were able to be on stage. I was able to be part of that panel, and then give a dedicated, kind of pitch or presentation for the DAO. That was great. The exposure was phenomenal. After I completed both of those things, I had folks walking up to me, asking questions, shaking my hand. It was great. And then got to participate in some of these, one-on-one interviews and some of the additional media, which I don't even know if all the content from those have been released yet. I think there's still more to come. Breakpoint had so much going on, and there were so many different people curating content there that I honestly don't think all of it has even been shared yet on social media to this point, even though it's been a month out.
It is crazy indeed, and I gotta admit, I was watching from YouTube, and you were crushing it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, that was. I'm trying to think. That may be. I've done plenty of Twitter Spaces now, and some of the podcasts and stuff. And even in my regular life, I've done some presentations. I think the Impact Summit may be close to or one of the largest in-person audiences I think I've presented to in quite a long time. So it was a great experience, and absolutely, if Star Atlas is going to continue these, I'm going to push to be a part of them in the future as well, because it was just great all the way around. Again, for the brand, for the DAO, for exposure, for networking, and just being in the thick of it, right, and being a part of everything that got going on there. It felt really really special to be a part of it. So I think it was well worth the trip. Even though for me, I will say the travel was pretty long, pretty horrendous.
Yeah, it sounded like a killer. It was even from Europe. It's kind of far to go to Singapore.
Yeah,
it's a lot of hours on the flights.
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah, I think my travel days were about between 30 and 32 hours, door to door, between layovers and flights and drive time, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, those were a couple of long days, but again, absolutely worth it. Do it again in a heartbeat. And I guess to spin off of that, I know I kind of briefly mentioned a few of the contacts we had. I would say there were some excellent contacts I've made with marketing firms that kind of specialize in some of the direction we're looking to go with the entertainment, which is very cool. Some exchanges that I had some great conversations with, both about kind of the liquidity and trading of not only our NFTs, but also the future, token and token launch. So I think we've got some really good options, to make sure that when the token comes out, we'll have the liquidity we need. We can launch on the DEX. We can also get into centralized exchanges relatively early, which all those things are really important for making sure that, everything we do and how we launch the product really gives, buyers, holders, members, the most flexibility and kind of opportunity to participate as they can. So those were great. I did kind of briefly mention the folks at Volania. They did it. They were great. They were really, really, great to talk to and super helpful. They're building some phenomenal stuff with the folks they have working in UE5 on their end. A lot of good resources there, which, they're very happy to share in the future as we move forward, which was great. And then probably lastly, the one that I want to get into a little bit or make sure I don't forget about is the team over at Portals. And I don't know how many people are familiar with what Portals is kind of building. I think the best way to describe it is Portals is kind of a fully immersive, 3D metaverse-ish type game. But I would say it's a little more simplified in kind of its delivery, but it's still quite good. It's they kind of brand themselves as the Roblox of Solana, right? So the idea is it's a builder universe, right? It's a builder world, and the idea is they're kind of they've created an entire whole slew of different NFTs that are kind of in-game useful. They've been around now for a couple of years, and I think they've got a pretty strong community. And so now they're kind of looking to build bridges, right? And so I've had a phenomenal conversation with one of the founders about a week after Breakpoint, kind of following up. And I think, Portals has a really good opportunity for not just us as the DAO, but possibly even Star Atlas, which I've recently been talking with the team at Star Atlas about as well here this past week. And I would say it's pretty exciting. I think, again, Portals kind of being an open world builder allows, or at least allows the DAO, in my opinion, to start creating some of these spaces, environments, and maybe even events that we can provide to.
Just the thing that would be possible to do is what Groza was just asking. When Solana Breakpoint virtually in Superphoenix, we all gonna be there. So using portals, that's something that would actually be possible.
That's a great point. So, as a matter of fact, Portals did that for this Breakpoint, and you might be able to go find it. I don't know if they saved it or streamed it, but so as a matter of fact, the Portals team created a mock-up of the main stage ballroom area. And so they had all the seating, they had the full main stage, they kind of had the whole thing set up sort of Solana-esque, if you will. And they had it available real time for anyone who couldn't make it to Solana, who was part of the Portals, ecosystem. And so they live streamed all of the main stage events from Breakpoint in a virtual Breakpoint stage. And your characters were able to log in, go sit down in a chair, walk around the room, and basically, view the live stream of Breakpoint, which was phenomenal, right? And so they already have those capabilities. Again, I think part of it's because, if anyone who goes to check it out, they're obviously not building in Unreal Engine. So it's not quite to, the level of granularity and depth that Star Atlas is pursuing, right? So I think part of that has been able to get them to market a bit sooner. But I would argue it's certainly not on the level of maybe a Sandbox or a Decentraland. I would argue it's much, much more graphically engaging than that. They've done a really good job with the modeling and the things that they do in that game. So in my opinion, I think it's a really good potential for kind of a hybrid for us to start offering some of those cool experiences, right? Like, because the fact is, the interior UE5 spaces for the Superphoenix are going to take a long time for the team to build through, right? To build through the progression of all these ships, and that's perfectly fine. We have no issue with pivoting to that, and that's the long-term goal of the DAO, of course. But I do think a partnership with a team like Portals gives us some optionality to do some fun things in the interim, right? In between, where we could do, maybe some small mini games or some kind of racing competitions or some giveaways, or potentially even host one of these town halls in, a simpler kind of version of a portal space, long before our full amphitheater is available in Superphoenix. So we're pursuing that right now. The team was really supportive of it. And one of the very cool things that I hope we can help kind of bring to fruition is not only is that kind of what their game is all about, is kind of, a social environment for builders and creators. But because they're on Solana, of course, all their NFTs are Solana-based NFTs. And assuming the team, has kind of authorizes some of the user-generated content, which is their ultimate goal long-term. And I've already discussed this with them, specifically about our project. And they're very open to it, of course, because, being able to create connections between other gaming communities is really important to them. So obviously the DAO and Star Atlas are well on their radar. So the fact that there may be an opportunity to create utility for your existing assets in Portals, I think is absolutely plausible. So the fact that maybe we could get an air bike, let's say, that you buy and have in Star Atlas and use in Sage, But when you log into Portals, now you have a Portals version of your air bike that your character can ride around on. I think that's really cool. And that's a space that we could help facilitate or maybe bridge, as part of the things we could do with Superphoenix DAO in the meantime. So I think those things are pretty exciting. I'm kind of looking forward to some of that. Obviously, I've had some great conversations now with people in the entertainment space. That's been going even better. As a matter of fact, a couple individuals at Breakpoint were very heavy in kind of the entertainment space. One of them was even the kind of premier live DJ that was hosting the events while we were there. And he was extremely excited about it and is very much into Web3 gaming, and was really looking forward to, an opportunity to kind of bridge the gap and be able to do some of these performances in full 3D space, which is really cool. So again, the ongoing kind of negotiations with that team, I think was really positive, and there's some really cool opportunities for us to, again, I think, start providing some cool experiences, with the brand of Star Atlas and Superphoenix, and kind of be the facilitator there. Not to mention, obviously, give value to everyone here, right? So all the folks who are already on board. I think it's going to be very cool.
This one has me really, 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 really excited because, I mean, for everybody here, I mean, if we were just saying, yeah, you're going to go to Portals and, people there have to buy Portal NFTs to access and all this stuff, it would be a hassle for everybody because it's not something we're necessarily, primarily into.
Yeah,
but the
agreed.
fact that we are, nothing firm yet, but if we are able to pull this thing through, we're actually able to give people here with their cubes and stuff access to, the Superphoenix in a lower resolution for the medium term until the long term, Star Atlas US5 is done. In addition to that, there might be, we can have races in our space and have, air bikes and whatever, and all this stuff that we can do and have events, host events, concerts, all this stuff becomes something that we can actually do. So it just has me very excited, because I'm not going to lie, like, until the UE5 thing on Star Atlas is complete, it's going to take a lot of time. It's just how it is. And, I think everybody here is well aware of that, given that we're all into Star Atlas. In the time in between that we would have the ability to host, all these cool events and fun stuff to do and really kickstart everything the Superphoenix DAO is about. That would be pretty awesome, if you ask me.
I agree. I completely agree, because I think, being able to offer some of those experiences that are separate from the internal game is going to be really important for the DAO. I think that's obviously a huge feature that we're pivoting to, and that we've kind of said from day one has some of the the greatest opportunity as a social gathering space and entertainment space, and all these different verticals for the DAO, right? As far as even where the revenue is going to come from and all those things to build the DAO treasury. I think this is how we can start to test some of those ideas, start to grow the economy of people who are interested in that aspect of what we're building, rather than kind of just have to wait for Star Atlas to push through their pipeline and work up to it, which I'm fully confident they're going to get there. I think Star Atlas is doing a phenomenal job, but there is a time component to it. I think anybody who's got any of the a lot of ships are still sort of in production or in process, right? And I'm one of them. I'm right there with everybody. Bought some ships out of the gate in 2021, and Sage is good, and I know they're moving forward with more progress on some of that stuff too. But yeah, I think building partnerships with some of these other Web3 game communities on Solana, it's important for a lot of different reasons, right? This is the whole idea of composability on the blockchain. So the idea that we have an asset in one game, and then we can flop over to another game, and that asset has some sort of use or value. To me, that's the whole idea, right? That's where all these things are kind of circling around. And I know it's early for a lot of games, and so many of those things aren't available yet, but they will be. That's the intent with a lot of these. And so the fact that a game like Portals is already starting to work on some of that functionality, even if it's in a little bit different aspect, yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity. Really excited about it. The team over there has been really positive to work with and talk to. And like I said, if we can, kind of help be the builder, the creator, maybe the bridge that, can work in some Star Atlas, theme type of pieces to it, that'd be great. Not to mention, our own community having the ability to get exposure to the Portals folks, right? Because I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people who are in Portals or working on Portals or playing games in Portals that really haven't checked out Star Atlas and certainly probably haven't checked out Superphoenix DAO. So again, I feel like it's a net positive pretty much all the way around.
It's a win-win. There's nothing more to say.
Sounds like it. And I guess before I forget, I could go on about Breakpoint, I think, for quite a while, and all the folks I talked to, and people.
We're on the time schedule.
I know. We'll get to it. I will say too that the other thing that was really cool, and this was mostly at the Impact Summit, when we're at kind of Star Atlas event, because there's obviously a lot of community members there and members of the team and all that stuff. I took notes as best I could, but I honestly couldn't even tell you how many different people approached me with ideas for the Superphoenix, which I thought was so cool. And some of them are some really cool ideas. So, people that watched the presentation maybe or wanted to come up and talk to me afterward, or we definitely had, Superphoenix DAO cube holders and members that were there. And I got to meet some of them, which was very cool. As a matter of fact, one gentleman was on my flight from the US. And, obviously I'd never met him before. I didn't know. I believe he's a member of Rome, but also cube holder and paying attention to what we're doing. I was wearing my merch, obviously, as my travel gear, my Superphoenix t-shirt. And so at one of the layover stops, he basically just came right up to me and, introduced himself, and we got chatting and we're able to connect quite a bit, obviously on flight times to and from, which was very cool. But it just cracked me up that there was anybody in the airport who actually recognized Superphoenix DAO on my shirt and came up and talked to me. I thought was surprising in the least. So it was very cool.
If my name was Jose right now, I would tell you about the cosmic currents and all that stuff. That is really cool. That is really cool.
Yeah, it's very fun. Yeah, it's very, very cool. So again, great experience. But a last one real quick I'm going to mention too is only because it's coming up. Again, one of many people I was able to interact with, but there was a group there representing Wolf Finance. And so Wolf Finance is really a media company that kind of specializes in Twitter Spaces and podcasts and that kind of thing. And it's a pretty large brand. So Wolf Finance, I think, probably has 350,000 followers on Twitter. And then they have kind of subset brands from that. They have Wolf Sports, they have Wolf Web3, and I don't know, there's probably 3 or 4 others. And so anyway, I just recently was talking to them as well, following up again from Breakpoint. And they're hosting a Twitter Spaces next Tuesday evening. I'm not sure the hours are going to work out real great for folks in European time zones, but when I get it, I'll post it so everyone knows. But next Tuesday evening for me, I'll be one of the panelists on the Twitter Spaces for Wolf Web 3. And again, I think they do a great job. I guess the point being there is they've got a really wide reach. So this is an excellent platform to get some more brand recognition, get the word out. I think even their Web3 Spaces pool, has 50 to 60,000 followers. And I think average viewership or average live tune in on the Spaces are 1,000 plus. So that'll be some great exposure next week. And kind of jokingly, I think I saw in the chat here, Bohemian was asking me about any major stars. And funny enough, Benny, we were just talking this morning, and I know I'm sure it's the connection with Wolf and being on the their show next week. We just had a very major star go ahead and follow us on Twitter, which I thought was pretty funny, pretty interesting. The man, the myth, the legend, John Cena, former WWE wrestler, is now a follower of Superphoenix DAO and all of his 15 million subscribers. So very, very funny, kind of impressive. And I guess we're moving forward. So all good exposure.
I'm trying to get the soundboard to work, but it doesn't. So that's a bit sad. I was supposed to go, John Cena!
Yeah,
I cannot confirm if it's a holder yet.
I
We gotta
cannot
make sure
either, but we
we
will
gotta make
dig
sure
more
that
into.
happens somehow.
Yeah, we will dig more into this. Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, excellent stuff. But anyway, I think the trajectory is good, right? So there's no bad publicity, I guess.
No
Um,
publicity, bad
all
publicity.
right, I'd say the last thing I have on my list is I did want to touch on the DAO token launch, just so folks have some idea of kind of what we're targeting and kind of moving forward, because I know that does also relate to a lot of the rewards mechanisms, the staking, and the cube and NFT staking as well. So I'm already had a couple of meetings with the dev team on getting started on the architecture around that, which is great. And right now we're targeting early January for the actual launch of the token, the staking mechanism, the token vesting, et cetera, et cetera. I kind of want to launch everything as one package as best we can. We may have a little bit of a pre-sale opening for kind of limited communities out in Web3, obviously including our own. As part of a marketing piece, we'll figure that out 100% as we get a bit closer, but that's certainly in an option. But overall, the idea is that there might be that limited public pre-sale that would precede the actual open public token sale. But again, the idea right now, I'm exploring a few different options, but really there's only a couple of pretty primary DEX launchpad options, in Solana, which make the most sense, right? To go where the liquidity is. And so a portion of the tokens will launch, on one of the DEXs using their launchpad so that we can kind of have that instantaneous liquidity and tradability for folks who want to jump in and buy and trade. And then we'll also have a portion of the tokens that'll just be, direct sale as part of kind of the website and our normal process. And again, also some smaller kind of exclusive limited buckets of maybe pre-sale, again, trying to get other communities in Web3 who are interested a little incentive, right, to jump in and kind of participate and really join Phoenix DAO, right? So we're going to be reaching out to a lot of the names everyone's familiar with. And hopefully, have announcements of those going out toward the end of the year. So kind of excited about that. I think it's a big piece and a big push that we're going to make over the next couple of months. So you'll see a lot more about it. Yeah, as far as the launch goes, we also made some great connections with a couple of pretty sizable centralized exchanges who obviously had representation there at Solana. Which is great. I think even probably two of the largest centralized exchanges that offer Star Atlas trading volume were obviously very interested in our project. So I have direct contacts for those folks. I have a meeting set up with one of them in a few weeks. And so being able to just, go through the terms and figure out exactly what that means and what the timing might be, I think those are really good options for us to have, obviously, when you're looking at token launch. Because being able to get it out to as many people as possible, having multiple sources of liquidity is usually the most important piece of these. So just to make sure we have the most successful, launch we can. But again, the intent is to build out kind of all that functionality. So there'll be a vesting pool, for partners who got in early with us, specifically, guilds and some of the other project partners that have token allocations. And then as well as the staking mechanisms for anyone who purchases DAO tokens, they'll be able to stake right away. Or for folks who, have cubes and can stake those to earn DAO tokens. We'll have some mechanisms there where you can obviously, compound staking if you wish, or again, as soon as the public sale is out, which is simultaneous, there'll be, the ability to trade those is going to be open. So that's kind of the idea with those. I'll get into more specifics the closer we get, because obviously we'll have some details around the emission rates of the tokens you earn based on each cube tier that you have. But more or less, I guess, to give for anyone who's really curious about those details, I can give a kind of generic detail about that can help you at least get a ballpark. And so if anyone recalls, a lot of the early marketing we did with the cubes kind of signified a fixed number of DAO tokens. So if it was a white cube, you had 100. If it was a green cube, you had 200, that kind of thing. Basically, what we're doing is we're still using those initial figures, but what that's going to be is that's going to be the minimum rate. I'm sorry, that would be the minimum you would receive over a 6-month period. And that's what the emissions rate is going to be based off of. So whatever cube tier that you have, there was kind of that base case amount of tokens that you will absolutely get if you stake them from day one for a full 6-month period. You'll receive that many tokens effectively. And that's the emission rate we're looking right now to target for each of the tiers. Now, of course, the emissions will be larger than that. The emissions pool will be larger than that because it would have to compensate for, let's say, all of the NFTs in circulation being able to stake all at the same time, even including our treasury NFTs, which we will not obviously stake. So what that means is the staking pool for NFTs is going to be significantly larger than what the emissions would dole out to everybody in that 6-month period. So I guess my point there being is, with less stakers participating in the pool on the NFT side, once you've reached that 6-month period and you've received that kind of minimum token amount, the emissions will just continue at that rate until the entire emissions pool is exhausted. So it gives a huge advantage basically for NFT holders today who get in on day one, because they can continue to stake those cubes and continue to earn additional DAO tokens beyond their 6-month kind of period until exhaustion. And again, that's all going to depend on participation in the staking pool and our ability, to bring new users and members into the group who want to, get cubes and stake them. That also goes for anyone who's currently in the pool, may want to use some of their DAO tokens to purchase additional cubes and stake those and kind of double down, right? All those options will be available, and I'm sure there'll be folks spreadsheeting it all out for everyone as we get closer. But again, without getting too heavy into the details, that's the general idea of how the emissions curve is going to work for the cubes itself. Just the DAO token staking is going to be much more similar, not exactly the same, but much more similar to maybe the Polis type of staking that everyone's familiar with. That one is intended to be a much longer term staking pool, obviously for the DAO itself, and to make sure that there's a reward for people who are purchasing tokens or earning them, and B, that the reward lasts, well into the period that we have governance actually up and running to provide additional utility and demand for the token. So that's the gist as far as the token launch goes, and some of the buckets we're looking to create, with the token emissions and reward distribution. So more to come on all of those, but ultimately that's the trajectory we're on here for probably the next 3 months or so.
That is awesome. And to put it very short on the whole cube staking for DAO tokens, just get in there on day one.
That is going to be your best bet.
That is the short version of it. If you want to maximize, just get in on day one. That's
true. Yep. There's no downside to being in there on day one, and it's going to be arguably the most utility for the cube on the very early days. So, but we've got great plans, like I said, to begin adding optionality and utility and access for folks who are cube holders. So we certainly encourage that. And like I said, we're going to have a couple of other options for folks to get more cubes in their hands if they choose to do so. One I forgot to mention, I guess I'll just briefly spin on that and we can wrap it up. One I forgot to mention at Breakpoint was the fact that we created physical, pretty high quality kind of physical trading cards that represented each of the 6 tiers of cubes. And we had I think there's a fixed amount of about 500. And I will say that did not include the level 6, purple energy cube. Obviously, we left that out because that's kind of a merge only function. But there's a the variety or the likelihood of getting one of the other higher cube tiers, in the packs was also relatively low, kind of similar to the mint. Honestly, it was about the same kind of ratio. But what we did is I went ahead and we created kind of our own custom, card packs, custom cards, and then created an entire, individual one-time use QR code inserted with every cube card that matched, of course, the tier of the card you pull. So again, it was kind of like the mint, but in physical form. So you just went up, if you were at Solana Breakpoint, you were able to go to the Solana merch store where you buy your shirts and hats and whatever you want. And right there, we had a great little setup where we had a bunch of Phoenix DAO, card packs, and you could buy one, rip it open right there in front of you, see what kind of cool card, or tier you got, and then be able to scan the QR code with your Phantom wallet on your phone and instantly download the pre-minted, associated NFT. So those were very cool. We had decent uptake of those by the second day. I think, the Impact Summit and me being able to talk about them on stage helped a little bit, but obviously we still have a decent supply of those kind of physical card packs, in stock, I guess, if you will. And I think those will be very cool for certain giveaways and other in-person events. So we'll kind of go from there and see what the curiosity or the demand is. But I thought that was a very cool feature and function that we had as part of, in-person Breakpoint related to our NFTs. So
To be honest, like this physical representation of your card, just buying a card pack just to see, like the opening a pack online is one thing, and seeing what cube you get, but there is something special about this, opening a physical card and see like, oh, I'm getting this. So cool, actually. And the fact that you can just redeem it for a actual cube on chain, that's I don't know, it's really awesome, I think.
Yeah, it was a very cool idea. We kind of pulled it together, relatively short notice within just a few weeks before Breakpoint. And it was just a function of me being able to talk to, the merchandise booth and the folks who were running it at Breakpoint, and the fact that they were offering, all the physicals, right? All the physical kind of stuff for different projects that were sponsoring Breakpoint. And so obviously we didn't have physical goods to sell. Now, we did give away a lot of t-shirts and merch and some other very cool stuff. But obviously the intent wasn't to sell that. We were trying to just get it out there, get the brand out there and all that. But yeah, so we kind of pitched the idea of the NFT on, card form, and the folks at Solana were great. They loved it. They were really supportive. And so I was able to kind of jump on it right away, execute, get the cards, and get everything together. If I'm being honest, it was right down to the wire. So I was actually sealing up all the card packs with a heat crimper myself by hand until about midnight the night before my flight left the next morning. So it was that tight because they just came in the mail like that day.
It is crazy. It is crazy. Was it fun packing it all?
No, not at all. My wife helped me, which was great because she didn't really. She kind of knows what we're doing here, but it is in and out. I will say she loves the community. She gets a really good kick out of the videos and stuff when folks talk about it. Some of the influencers and stuff in the chat, which is cool. But I needed a few extra hands because it was getting late and there was a lot of stuff that needed to be packed. So, but the card packs look great. They were a success, I would say. And yeah, we still got them. So that's the cool part about it is they're not going anywhere, right? It's just another bucket of kind of treasury assets that are now attached to a physical collectible, and we can use them for all sorts of things going forward.
Yeah, just DM me or bids under the table, and we'll be able to share. Just mess around. No, it's gonna be cool. We're probably gonna be giving away these. Or not everyone, but maybe a card pack or two. We'll maybe give away as we're closing in on the DAO launch.
I think so. I think that's a great idea. And I don't know, now that you talk about giveaways too, I'm not sure if we've landed on necessarily our next kind of giveaway or promotional activity for the community, but I will say we have some very cool stuff to give away to folks. So, not just our NFT or what we're working on as well. Obviously we have, cubes that we can use for giveaway type stuff. But again, as part of these relationships that I've built with other teams, they were gracious enough to hand over some of their content content for us to be able to give away, which is great. So we have kind of a whole basket of hero NFTs from the Volania team, which is very cool. And then we've got some very limited edition NFTs from the Portals team that we can give away for things as well as we go forward here. So I know Benny is still kind of cooking on some cool ways to engage the community here in the meantime while we continue to build the rest of this year. But we want to definitely get folks more engaged, get some cool contests and things going. And like I said, now we've got a pretty good variety of stuff to hand out and give away and reward people for, I guess, just sticking with us,
Absolutely. There's going to be more news on those giveaways as we go. The sooner we're closing up on the token launch in hopefully January, there's going to be a sprint of a couple weeks where you will be able to random giveaways. It's going to be some competitions, some just pure giveaways. It's a lot of stuff we have to give out. I'm not going to lie. So it's going to be over the course of a couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think we may have to compete, right? I'm not sure when the golden ticket is ramping up again in Star Atlas, and they've got a slew of giveaways, I think, that are coming out near the end of the year. So that might be a tough one to compete with, but we'll give it a go.
Christmas is coming early. Christmas is coming early.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think we've pretty much passed through everything, and you actually managed to stay within the hour.
I think so. I think we hit all the major topics, and we pretty much stayed on time. I call that a win.
Me too. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. Because last time was like, you're just going to use like 20 or 30 minutes, and 1.5 hour later, you're still talking. So,
Yeah, that's. See, I'm getting better now. I had to learn how to time myself right at breakpoint. So
getting better. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. You're doing
be
good.
more efficient. Right.
Very good. No, I hope everybody liked some of the news we had. Sorry about not getting the ships, but at least you're getting the crew and you're getting the badges. And we've got a lot of stuff in the works in the coming months, just so you're all aware of that. And I hope everybody has been happy with the information shared today. I know it's been kind of radio silent as we've been doing stuff, but I hope people are happy.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And like I said, I just want to, kind of reaffirm everybody that we're full steam ahead. We're cranking. I'm having regular meetings, with the developers, with marketing folks, with Benny, on a weekly basis. The first couple of weeks after Breakpoint were pretty intense. I think I had multiple meetings almost daily for a couple of weeks straight, which again, just phenomenal, opportunities, networking, chatting with people, looking at how we can collaborate and build and move forward. But yeah, the roadmap is full steam ahead. And even though it has been a little quiet, I would say the last couple of weeks, getting caught up on everything, there's definitely been no shortage of behind the scenes efforts. So I just want to assure everybody that we're doing great. We're on track. And we're going to keep making it happen.
Absolutely. I mean, that said, I think we're going to call it a day. Thanks for showing up, everybody. It's been really fun, and I'm excited for what's coming next. So thanks for showing up, and have a great day, night, evening, morning, all that stuff.